Yo, Volky, bro, I saw this thing on Reddit that said every single country on Earth is in debt. Like, every single one. That can't be real, right?
It's completely real. The US alone is sitting at over $38 trillion right now.
Okay, wait. Trillion with a T. That's insane. So, who does the US owe that to? Like, is it China?
A little, but mostly, America owes it to America.
Bro, that makes zero sense.
Haha, that's exactly what today's video is about. The paradox. Every country on this planet is in debt. The United States? $38 trillion, a number so large your brain just kind of gives up trying to visualize it. The EU? Around $14 trillion. Japan? Nearly $9 trillion. And even countries swimming in oil money, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, they're borrowing too. The total? Over $315 trillion in global debt. That's almost 3 times the size of the entire world's economy. So here's the question that should be breaking your brain right now. If everyone owes money, who is everyone owing it to? It sounds like a riddle. But the answer is one of the most important things you'll ever learn about how modern society actually works. But, and this is the part that matters, that doesn't mean it's fair. Not even close. Where it started. To understand how we got here, we need to rewind to 1694. England is at war with France. They're broke. Like, the royal treasury is literally empty. So the king turns to a group of London merchants and says, "Look, fund this war. In return, we'll pay you interest, guaranteed, backed by future taxes." Those merchants said yes. And to manage the whole thing, they created the Bank of England. That was the birth of the government bond, basically an IOU that could be bought, sold, and traded. A promise from the government dressed up as an investment. Think of it like this. England essentially did a crowdfund for a war, and it worked. France copied it, the Netherlands refined it. The United States used the same playbook to fund its revolution. And here's the mindset shift that changed everything. Debt stopped being a sign of failure. It became a sign of credibility. If you could borrow, you could build. If you could borrow more, you could build empires. The battlefield became the balance sheet, and that logic, it never went away. It just got a lot bigger. One deported the debt. Okay, let's talk real numbers, because this is where it gets genuinely wild. Take the US, $38 trillion owed. Sounds catastrophic, but here's the breakdown. About half of that is held internally, meaning the US government owes it to itself. Social security funds, government agencies, that kind of thing. Of the rest, the stuff owed to outside investors. About 2/3 is held by American banks, pension funds, and the Federal Reserve. That leaves roughly $9 trillion in foreign hands. Japan holds about $1 trillion of US debt. China holds around $800 billion. So when your uncle at Thanksgiving says China owns us, technically, China owns about 2% of US debt. Less than what's in American retirement accounts.
Wait, so the US paying off its debt would actually be bad?
Catastrophically bad. The whole system needs the debt to exist.
So the government keeping us in debt is a feature, not a bug.
Now you're getting it.
That's low-key terrifying.
Yep, keep watching. Here's a real-world analogy. Imagine a squad house where 6 people live together. One person borrows money from the house fund. One roommate loans them cash. Another roommate has invested in a fund that also loaned them money. And their mom, who lives across town, loaned a small piece too. Who does that person owe? Mostly their own house, the system they live inside. That's the US, that's most countries. It's a closed loop of IOUs, and the whole thing runs on one thing: trust. The game no one is supposed to win. Here's something they don't teach in school. Governments never plan to pay off their debt. Not the US. Not Japan, whose debt is now over 250% of its GDP and has been for decades. Not Germany. Not anyone. That sounds insane, right? If you took out a student loan and told your bank, "Yeah, I'm never paying the principal, just the interest," they'd laugh you out of the office. But countries operate completely differently. They issue new bonds to pay off old bonds. It's called rolling over debt, like renewing a Netflix subscription instead of canceling it. And it works, as long as people keep subscribing. Think about it like this. U.S. Treasury bonds aren't seen as risky IOUs. They're seen as the most reliable asset in the world. Banks hold them. Pension funds hold them. Other countries' central banks hold them. And here's the plot twist. If the U.S. somehow paid off all its debt, it would actually break the global financial system. Banks would lose their most stable asset. Money supply would shrink. We'd likely hit a deflationary spiral. The debt isn't just sustainable. It's necessary. The heartbeat of global capitalism is literally built on governments promising to keep borrowing when the system cracks. But this whole thing depends on one word: confidence. The second the confidence breaks, you see what the system really is. Look at Greece in 2010. Markets panicked about their debt levels. Interest rates on their bonds spiked overnight. The EU and IMF stepped in, but the bailout came with brutal austerity. A whole generation of Greeks faced mass unemployment and cuts to healthcare and education. They didn't create a global financial crisis, they just lost the room's confidence. Look at Sri Lanka in 2022. The country ran out of foreign currency to pay for imports, fuel ran dry, people couldn't cook. The president literally fled the country. That's what happens when the debt machine stops for a small economy with no safety net. Or look at Argentina, a country that has defaulted on its debt 9 times. 9. At some point, debt doesn't just become an economic problem, it becomes a national identity crisis. The lesson? When the system works, everyone pretends there's no system. When it breaks, suddenly the creditors have names. The IMF shows up. The rating agencies downgrade you. Bondholders you never knew existed start dictating your country's budget. The puppet strings become visible. The part no wants to say out loud. Here's the thing that should actually make you feel some kind of way. When we say we owe it to ourselves, that only half true. Interest payments don't flow equally. They flow upward. Taxpayers fund the interest. That interest flows to the banks, pension funds, and investment firms that hold the bonds. Those institutions are overwhelmingly owned by people who already have money. So debt isn't just a transfer between countries, it's a transfer between classes. It's not a conspiracy, it's just math. And it's why global debt and global inequality have risen together almost in perfect sync. You're not just a citizen of a country that owes money. Through your taxes, your savings account, your eventual pension, you're already inside the machine. You're both the debtor and, in some tiny fraction, the creditor. The line between the two has blurred so completely that it's almost invisible. Finally, debt was once a chain, a mark of shame, of bondage. Today, it's the operating system of civilization. Every war was funded by it. Every recovery was built on it. The phone in your hand exists because someone, somewhere, borrowed to build the factory that made the chip that powers it. The world isn't drowning in debt. The world is running on it. The only real question is, who? Steering. If this just rewired how you see money, share it with someone who needs their brain broken too. And subscribe, because this is just the surface.